It was a cold, rainy night on the alien planet called Threxos. The sky was dark, the streets were empty, and the wind howled like a wild animal in the middle of a dirty alley. A small figure moved slowly through piles of trash. It was a little alien girl, thin like a stick, her clothes torn and her skin covered in dirt. She had big, glowing green eyes that looked tired and scared. Her stomach made loud noises she had not eaten for days. She picked up a piece of old bread from the trash and smelled it. Even though it was hard and moldy, she took a bite. Her hands shook from the cold, and her feet were bare. She didn't cry anymore. She had cried too much already. Now there were no more tears left, only silence and hunger. People walked past her during the day. Some looked at her with disgust. Others ignored her completely. A few even threw small stones at her, calling her names in languages she didn't understand. But she never said a word. She just curled up and waited for night. Night was safer, fewer people, fewer dangers. But tonight, her body was weak, her legs gave out, and she fell behind a trash bin. Not far from that alley, an old human man named Aaron was living alone. He had a small shop where he repaired broken machines. He was kind, but quiet. People thought he was strange because he didn't talk much. He had no family, no children, and no one visited him. But every evening, he came out with a bag of trash and fed the stray birds that gathered around. That night, as Aaron walked out with his trash bag, he heard something. It was a soft whimper, almost like a cry. He followed the sound and looked behind the bin. There she was, the tiny alien girl lying in the dirt, eyes half open, skin pale and shaking. At first, he thought it was just another creature from the gutters. But then she looked at him. Those big green eyes stared straight into his, full of fear and pain. Aaron froze for a second. Then he slowly took out a piece of bread from his pocket. He bent down and placed it near her. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. She didn't move. He backed away slowly and sat a few steps away. For 5 long minutes, nothing happened. Then slowly, she reached out and took the bread. She didn't trust him, but hunger was stronger than fear. She ate quickly, looking around like someone might take it from her. Aaron watched quietly, not saying a word. When she finished, she tried to stand, but her legs were too weak. Aaron stood up and said, "I'll bring you something warmer tomorrow." Then he turned and walked back to his home. He didn't sleep well that night. The image of the little girl kept appearing in his mind. He had seen many things in his life: wars, greedy men, broken machines, but never a child so alone. The next morning, he placed a small blanket, a bottle of water, and some fruit in the same spot. He didn't wait around. He just left it and went back inside. Later that day, he checked from his window. The food was gone, so was the blanket. This happened again and again. Every night, he would leave something, and every morning it would be gone. But he never saw her again, not until 3 nights later. He stepped outside and saw a tiny shadow sitting quietly near his porch. It was her. She wasn't asking for anything. Just sitting there, watching the sky. Aaron said nothing. He walked inside, left the door open, and made some warm soup. When he came back, she was gone. But the next night, she returned, and the next. On the 5th night, she came closer. She stood at the edge of the porch and looked at him. Her hands were shaking, her lips dry. He pointed to the chair beside him and said, "Sit if you want." She didn't move for a minute. Then slowly, very slowly, she sat. They didn't talk. They didn't need to. In that silence, something passed between them, something soft and gentle. The old man looked at her and thought, maybe she came into my life for a reason. And as for the little alien girl, for the first time in her life, she felt something new. Not food, not shelter. It was something deeper. It was the feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone cared. Asterisk. The little alien girl came back every night. She never spoke, never smiled, but she always came, each time. She sat a little closer to the porch. Each time, the old man, Aaron, left the door open a little longer. He never asked questions. He didn't push her to come inside. He just placed a bowl of food, a blanket, or a warm drink near her seat and walked away. He treated her like a shy bird, careful not to scare her, and slowly she began to trust him. Iran noticed her eyes always scanned everything, like she was waiting for something bad to happen. Even when she ate, she kept one hand on the edge of her seat, ready to run. She slept outside for 3 more nights, wrapped in the blanket he gave her. Then came the storm. Dark clouds rolled over the sky like thick smoke. The wind howled and the rain poured like buckets from the heavens. Iran worried. He stepped out and saw her curled up under the porch, soaked and shaking. Lightning flashed above and she flinched, hiding her face. He walked toward her with a thick towel and a steaming cup. She stared at him with wide eyes, not sure what to do. He didn't say a word. He just held the towel out. Slowly and gently, after a long pause, she reached for it. Her small fingers brushed against his hand, cold and wet. Iran turned and walked back inside. Leaving the door open again, he placed another blanket near the fire and waited. Time passed, and the door stayed open. For a while nothing happened. Then he heard the softest sound, footsteps on wooden floor. She had come in, dripping wet, hugging the towel to her chest, her eyes full of fear and wonder. She didn't speak, but her body swayed like she might fall. Iran pointed to the warm blanket and said, "You can rest there, if you want." She stood still for a moment, then slowly stepped forward and collapsed. Iran rushed to her side and caught her before she hit the floor. He lifted her tiny body gently and placed her near the fire. He covered her and watched as she fell into deep sleep. Her breathing was soft but shaky. Iran sat nearby, listening to the rain. He had lived alone for many years, but now, for the first time, someone else was there, fragile, silent, and afraid. In the morning, the storm was gone. The girl was still, sleeping, wrapped in blankets like a cocoon. Iran made porridge and set a small bowl near her. When she woke up, she looked around confused, but when she saw him, she didn't run. She just stared, then looked at the food, then back at him. He smiled and said, "Eat, it's warm." She ate without a word, but slower this time, not like she was scared he would take it away, like she knew it was hers now. She even looked at him once and gave a tiny nod. Days passed, and she stayed. She didn't sleep outside anymore. She still didn't talk, but she followed Iran around the house. She watched him fix machines, repair wires, and clean old tools. Sometimes she helped, handing him small parts or holding the light. Iran noticed something strange. One day, a broken drone came to his shop. He was working on it when the girl touched it lightly. The drone buzzed once and blinked. Something inside had connected. Iran looked at her in surprise. She pulled her hand back quickly, scared she had done something wrong. But he smiled and said, "You're full of surprises, little one." He started calling her Lena. It was a name he once heard long ago. He didn't know if she liked it, but she never stopped him. Sometimes she would look up when he said it, and her lips would twitch like she almost smiled. But not everything was peaceful. Word began to spread that the strange human was keeping an alien child. A few neighbors came by, asking questions. Iran lied and said she was just helping with chores. One alien merchant whispered to him, "You should be careful, old man. She might bring trouble." Iran didn't reply, but inside, he began to worry. That night, Lena was quiet, more than usual. She didn't eat much and sat near the door, staring into the dark. Iran watched her, wondering what she was thinking. She turned to him and said her first word, "I can go," she whispered. Iran's heart ached. "You don't have to," he replied. "Not unless you want to." She looked at him, her eyes full of something he hadn't seen before, hope. He stood up and placed a gentle hand on her head. "You're safe here," he said. And for the first time, she leaned into his touch. Maybe not fully, maybe not forever, but for now, she had found something she had never known before: shelter. And maybe, just maybe, a home. Lena stayed with Iran, but she still didn't feel like she belonged. The house was warm, The food was good, and the old man was kind, but deep inside, she felt like a shadow, like she wasn't meant to be anywhere. She would wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, heart pounding. Dreams of cold metal rooms, sharp lights, and loud machines haunted her sleep. Iran noticed. He saw the way she flinched at sudden noises, how she jumped when a machine sparked, how her eyes widened. Every time she heard sirens in the distance, he didn't push her to talk. But one morning, he asked gently, "Where did you come from, Lena?" She looked away, eyes filled with pain. After a long silence, she rolled up her sleeve. There were strange, faded marks on her arm, thin black lines, like wires or scars. Iran leaned closer and realized they weren't just scars, they were numbers. A code, maybe. Someone had marked her like property, Lena whispered. They kept me in a white place, with lights that never turned off. Iran felt his chest tighten. He didn't need more details. He had heard stories of secret labs on distant moons, places where unwanted alien children were taken, used, tested, then thrown away. Lena had escaped. But the fear hadn't left her. It was inside her like a quiet storm she never asked for. Toys, never asked to play. She just watched, listened, and learned. She was smart, too smart. One day, Iran found her repairing a broken translator, a device even he couldn't fix. When he asked, she did it. She just shrugged and said, "It spoke to me." That answer chilled him more than it surprised him. She had a gift, maybe a curse, something left inside her by those who had hurt her. Word continued to spread about the strange girl in the human's home. Some were curious, others angry. They said she was dangerous. One day, a city patrol officer stopped Iran in the market. "We heard you're keeping an alien without registration." The officer said. Iran looked him in the eye and replied, "She's not an alien, she's a child." But the officer warned him, "There are rules, old man, and she's not one of us." Iran returned home that day with heavy steps. He didn't tell Lena, but she could sense something was wrong. That evening, Lena sat outside, staring at the sky. The stars above sparkled like tiny eyes, watching her. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I don't belong here either." The next morning, she was gone. Iran woke up to an empty house. The blanket was neatly folded, the food untouched. He rushed outside, calling her name again and again. There was no answer. He searched every alley, every corner of the market. His old legs trembled, his voice cracked, but he didn't stop. Finally, he found her sitting under the old metal bridge near the river, her arms wrapped around her knees, her eyes red. She didn't look up. When he approached, "I thought I was causing trouble," she said. "I don't want them to take your house or arrest you." Iran sat beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lena, I don't care what they say," he replied. "You are not trouble, and I will not lose you again." She turned to him, her face full of confusion. "Why?" she asked. Iran smiled sadly. "Because you remind me of someone I once lost." Lena looked at him, unsure what to say. He continued, "She was my daughter long ago, but I couldn't save her. But maybe I was meant to find you." For a long moment, they just sat there in silence. The river flowed below them, calm and steady. Lena finally said, "Do you really want me to stay?" Iran nodded. "Yes, I want you to stay, as long as you want to." From that day forward, something changed between them. Lena started to open up more. She still didn't talk much, but she smiled sometimes. She helped Iran in the shop more often, and even began to hum little songs while fixing tools. One afternoon, while cleaning an old storage box, Lena found a picture. It was of a young girl human, with bright eyes and a wide smile. She held a toy in her hand and stood beside a younger Iran. "That's her," Iran said, looking over her shoulder. "My daughter Mira. She was brave just like you." Lena stared at the photo for a long time. Then she looked at Iran and whispered, "Can I be your daughter too?" His eyes filled with tears. He nodded slowly and said, "You already are." They were not the same, not by blood or species, but in that quiet little house on a strange alien planet, An old man and a broken girl had found each other, and maybe, just maybe, they had found something even more rare. A place to belong. Lena was changing. She no longer sat in corners or flinched at every sound. She laughed sometimes, quietly, almost like she forgot she was allowed to. She started drawing pictures on scraps of paper-strange shapes, machines, stars, and faces. Iran watched her and smiled, but he also wondered, who had she been before she became Lena? One evening, as Iran cleaned the workshop, he heard a soft cry from the small room where Lena slept. He rushed in and found her sitting on the floor, her back turned. Her shirt was pulled halfway up, revealing something on her skin, not just a scar this time, metal. Thin silver lines ran under her skin, glowing faintly. It looked like part of a machine, fused to her spine. She turned, her face wet with tears. "I didn't want you to see it," she whispered. Iran knelt beside her. Heart heavy. "It doesn't scare me," he said. She looked down and said, "They called me a project, not a person." For the first time, she told him everything. She had been taken when she was very young. They told her she was lucky to be chosen, but in that white, silent place, they didn't hug her or sing to her. They only tested her. They put wires in her head, opened her body, and filled it with circuits. She remembered pain, bright lights, and voices behind glass walls. "They wanted me to control machines with my mind," she said. "Sometimes it worked, sometimes I got sick. They said if I didn't improve, they'd send me away, and one day they did. The ship that carried her broke down during transport. In the crash, she escaped and ran for days until she reached the city and hid in the alleys." Iran's hands trembled as he gently pulled down her shirt and wrapped a blanket around her. "No one will ever hurt you again," he promised, but deep inside, he knew that wasn't a promise he could keep forever. The next day, Iran contacted an old friend, a retired medic named Resi who lived in the outskirts. He told her only part of the truth, enough to get help. Resi agreed to come by in secret, just to examine Lena and see what could be done. When Resi saw Lena, she froze. "I've seen marks like these," she said, "on a stolen file years ago." "She's not just enhanced, she's bonded," Iran asked. "What does that mean?" Resi explained. "Her body is linked to certain tech systems, possibly military grade. Or worse." Resi scanned her with a small device. A low beep echoed, and a red light flashed. "That's a tracker signal," she said quietly. "She's been broadcasting for weeks. Someone might already be following her trail." Lena backed away, eyes wide. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." Iran quickly hugged her. "It's not your fault." But inside, panic grew. If someone dangerous was tracking her, they had to act fast. That night, Iran checked his old storage locker. Inside were items from long ago: tools, maps, a dusty backpack, and a small ship key. He had once been a pilot before settling here. Now he needed to fly again. He walked into Lena's room and said, "We may need to leave soon." Lena sat up, fear in her eyes. "I'll go alone if it keeps you safe." Iran shook his head. "We go together." "But I'm not normal," she whispered. Iran sat beside her and said, "No, you're not. You're stronger, smarter, and braver than anyone I've ever known." Outside, in the shadows, something moved. A drone, small and silent, hovered over the roof and blinked red once, then flew away, disappearing into the clouds. The next morning, a strange man in a black coat came to Iran's shop. His voice was cold, his eyes unreadable. "I'm looking for a lost asset," he said. "A child with certain talents." Iran kept his face calm. "Haven't seen anyone like that." The man glanced around, then smiled thinly. "If you do, be wise enough to tell us." Then he left, his boots clicking on the metal floor like a countdown. Iran locked the door and turned to Lena, who was hiding in the workshop. "It's time," he said. She nodded, her small hand grabbing his tightly. No more hiding, no more waiting. They had to run, not just to survive, but to protect each other. That night, as they packed, Iran found one of Lena's drawings. It showed two figures, one tall, one small, holding hands, standing on a spaceship. Around them were stars, planets, and a simple word written in shaky letters. Home. He looked at her and said, "Let's go find that home." She smiled, small and hopeful. The old man and the broken girl were ready. Whatever waited beyond the stars, they would face it together. The sun hadn't risen yet, but Iran was already moving. He packed tools, food, and old spare parts into a dusty travel bag. Lena stood nearby, hugging her blanket, eyes wide but silent. She didn't ask questions. She already knew someone was coming for her, and they didn't have much time. The small scout ship behind Iran's house hadn't flown in years. It was old, rusty, and missing a few panels. But Iran was a fixer. He believed he could bring anything back to life, even something this broken. As he worked, Lena helped without needing instructions. She passed in tools, adjusted wires, and even climbed inside the engine panel. She knew more than he expected. It surprised him and worried him. Those people hadn't just hurt her, they had trained her, shaped her mind to work like a machine. "I shouldn't know how to do this," Lena whispered once. Iran looked at her gently. "It's not your fault." She said nothing, just kept working. By evening, the ship hummed. It wasn't fast, but it could fly. Iran stood back and smiled for the first time that day. "We can leave tonight," he said. Lena looked at the stars and nodded. But just as they prepared to board, a sound echoed across the neighborhood, a deep, mechanical hum, followed by a flashing blue light in the sky. 3 patrol drones flew overhead, slow and scanning. Iran pulled Lena back into the shadows. "They're searching," he whispered. Lena trembled. "They're close." Inside the house, a red light began blinking on the wall. It was a signal from an old machine one Iran had almost forgotten about. He ran to it, pressed a few buttons, and stared at the message that appeared. Subject code V73, a detected, high-value target, alert activated. His heart sank. V73A. That was her. That was what they called her before she had a name. Suddenly, a message came through. Audio only. A cold voice spoke. "We know she is with you. Return the subject, and no harm will come to you." Iran smashed the device with his fist. "She's not a subject," he growled. "She's my daughter." Lena was hiding in the corner, curled up tightly. "I didn't mean to bring danger," she whispered, tears running down her face. Iran knelt and wiped her tears gently. "You brought light into this house," he said, "and I will protect that light, no matter what." They waited until nightfall. The drones flew away for now, maybe to search another zone. Iran and Lena boarded the ship quietly. As the engine started, a loud crack echoed in the distance, a warning shot. They were not going to let her go easily. The ship lifted into the sky, shaking but steady. Lena sat beside Iran, eyes wide with both fear and excitement. As the stars opened up above them, she reached out a hand and touched the window. "Freedom," she whispered. Iran glanced at her and smiled, though worry still rested in his eyes. They flew low, avoiding the main routes. Iran used old smuggler paths stored in the ship's memory. But even then, he knew it was only a matter of time. These people were rich, powerful, and they had resources. They would not stop until they got her back or until she was dead. After 2 days of quiet travel, they reached a small moon called Telranine. Iran had a contact there, a former engineer named Mazik. Mazik once worked for the same labs that had taken Lena. Now he lived in hiding, filled with guilt for the things he had helped build. Mazik was shocked when he saw Lena. "I remember her type," he said slowly. "There were only 5 of them." "She was the youngest," Iran asked. "Can you remove the tracker?" Mazik shook his head. "Not fully, it's buried deep. But I can scramble the signal." Lena watched quietly as Mazik worked. When it hurt, she didn't scream. She just closed her eyes and gripped Iran's hand. After 3 long hours, Mazik stepped back. "It's done for now. They'll think she's gone." Iran thanked him, but Mazik added, This won't last forever if they figure it out. They'll come harder faster, Iran nodded. Then, we'll keep moving. As they prepared to leave Telranine, Lena turned to Mazik and asked, "Why did they make me?" Mazik hesitated, then said, "Because they were afraid of the future, and they wanted to control it." That night back in the ship, Aaron found Lena awake, staring at a star chart. "Where do you want to go next?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she pointed to a small star far away. "There," she said softly. "Somewhere no one knows me. Where I can just be me." Aaron looked at the star, then at the girl beside him, the one they called a subject, a project, a danger, but to him, she was just a child, brave, broken, and brilliant. He touched her shoulder gently. "Then that's where we'll go," he said. And together, they flew into the star's father and daughter. Hunted but not afraid, not anymore. Asterisk the stars outside. The ship moved slowly, like glowing dust in the dark. Lena watched them in silence. Her hand pressed against the window. She didn't speak much since they left Telranine. Something inside her felt strange, like her body didn't belong to her. She was tired, more than usual. And her head sometimes burned. Aaron noticed it. Her hands shook, her eyes looked heavy, and her skin sometimes glowed faintly in the dark. He worried, but he didn't say it out loud. He just made her warm soup and kept flying. Their ship, the old Star Runner, was getting weaker too. It beeped more often, and one engine sputtered during jumps, but it was still their home for now. It was all they had. They stayed in space for 3 days, hiding from patrol signals and avoiding known travel paths. Then, on the 4th day, Aaron received a ping. It came from an old friend, someone he hadn't seen in years, Jax, a deep space mechanic and part-time smuggler. Jax owed Aaron a favor, and now was the time to collect. They landed on a cold mining asteroid called Groven 6. It was filled with tunnels, dust, and quiet men who didn't ask questions. Jax lived in an old cargo container with more tools than walls. When he saw Aaron and the girl, he raised an eyebrow. "You've been busy," he said. Aaron replied, "I need help and I need it quiet." Jax agreed. He took one look at Lena and said, "She's not normal," Aaron said. "She's more than that, and they want her back." Jax checked the ship, refueled it, and hid it under layers of scrap metal. "You'll be safe here for a while," he said, "but word spreads, even in rocks like this." Lena sat inside the small room Jax gave them. Hugging her knees, Aaron sat beside her and asked, "Are you feeling okay?" She shook her head slowly. "My chest feels hot," she whispered, "like something is waking up." That night, she had another nightmare. She saw the white room again. The machines, the needles, and the voice. The cold voice that always said, "You are not a child, you are a design." She woke up screaming. Sweat pouring from her skin, glowing like soft fire. Aaron held her, scared. This wasn't normal. Something inside her was growing or breaking. He contacted Jax again. "I need a medic. Someone who won't report us." Jax knew a woman, a retired war doctor named Elra. She came in with a mask and cold eyes. When she scanned Lena, her face turned pale. "She's not just enhanced," Elra said. "She's evolving." "What does that mean?" Aaron asked. Elra showed him the readings. "The tech in her body. It's merging with her biology, changing her from the inside. She's becoming something new, something that doesn't belong to any species." Lena listened quietly. She didn't cry or scream. She just whispered, "Will I die?" Elra didn't answer. Aaron gripped her hand. "You will not die. I won't let that happen." Elra gave them medicine to help the pain, but it was only temporary. "She needs a stabilizer. A rare one," she said. "You'll only find it in the core worlds." Aaron shook his head. "That's suicide. The core is where they're hunting her." Elra looked at Lena, then said, "Then you'll have to choose hide and watch her fade, or risk everything and go." That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. He looked at Lena, lying curled up, her breath shaky. He remembered the first time he saw her, tiny and shaking in the trash. She had no one, nothing. Now she had him, and he wasn't going to let her be taken by the past again. He woke her gently in the morning. "We're going to the core," he said. Lena looked at him, eyes tired but filled with something new hope. "It's dangerous," she whispered. "I've faced danger before," he replied. "But I've never had something worth protecting." They thanked Jax and left Groven 6 before the sun rose. The old ship rumbled to life again. Iran set the coordinates manually, avoiding every known patrol path. The journey would be long, hard and risky, but he had made up his mind. As they moved through space, Lena looked at Iran and asked, "Why do you care so much?" Iran smiled sadly. "Because once I lost a daughter. And now I've found one." She didn't answer, but her hand found his and held it tightly. Behind them, their past was catching up, ahead of them. Danger waited in every corner of the stars, but they flew forward anyway, not because they had no choice, but because they had made one together. Iran didn't know what the core would bring. He didn't know if they'd make it. But one thing was clear, he would never leave Lena, not now, not ever. The stars ahead were bright and beautiful, but Iran had no time to enjoy them. His hands stayed tight on the controls as the ship passed through dangerous space. They were heading to the core worlds, the heart of the galaxy, the place where Lena had once been made, tested, and thrown away. Now they were returning, not as a broken subject, but as a child with a father. Lena sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing soft but unsteady. The glow under her skin came and went like soft lightning. She was changing, fast. The medicine from Elra helped for a while, but now it was fading. They needed the stabilizer soon, or she wouldn't survive. Iran knew the risks. The core was full of patrols, scanners, and agents, but he didn't care. He had lost one daughter years ago. He would not lose another. They reached the edge of core space 3 days later. Iran flew through an old mining route known to smugglers, but even that path wasn't safe anymore as they passed a broken station. Red lights blinked across the radar. They were being followed. Lena looked up, her eyes dull. "They found us," she whispered. Iran nodded. "Hold on." He pushed the ship into a dive, spinning past rock fields and satellite debris. Behind them, 2 black ships followed, fast and armed. "They won't stop," Lena said, her voice shaking. "They'll take me back and erase me." Iran looked at her, eyes full of fire. "No, they won't," he said. "Not while I'm breathing." The black ships opened fire. Blasts shook their ship as Iran dodged left and right. Panels sparked, alarms screamed. He couldn't outrun them, not in this old ship. But he had a plan. He sent out a false signal, pretending the ship was crashing. He guided it toward an abandoned space yard near the inner planet of Core 6. They landed hard, smoke rising from the sides. Iran pulled Lena close. "We'll go." On foot from here, they exited the ship and ran through the ruins of old factories and metal towers. Lena stumbled once, and Iran picked her up, carrying her like a child again. The black ships landed behind them, releasing soldiers in black armor. Voices echoed through the area. "Return the asset and you will not be harmed." Iran didn't stop. He ran through tunnels, past broken machines, deeper into the city's shadow. He knew where to go. An old contact who once made medicine for enhanced soldiers. If anyone still had the stabilizer, it was him. They reached a dark workshop hidden under the streets. A short, wrinkled man opened the door, eyes widening at the sight of Lena. "You brought her here?" He hissed. "They're tracking her." "I know," Iran said, "but she's dying, and you're the only one who can help." The man looked at Lena, her body shaking in Iran's arms. He grumbled, "Wait here." He returned minutes later with a silver injector, glowing blue. "This is the last one. After this, I disappear." He injected Lena carefully. Her body jerked once, then slowly calmed. The glow under her skin faded, and her eyes opened clear, calm, alive. Iran sighed in relief. But then, a loud boom shook the building. The soldiers had found them. The man shouted, "There's a tunnel below. Go now." Iran nodded and grabbed Lena. They ran down into the dark. Footsteps pounding above them. In the tunnel, Lena suddenly stopped. "I don't want to run anymore," she said. Iran turned, surprised. "I'm not afraid now," she whispered. "I feel strong." Iran looked at her carefully. She stood tall, no longer weak or shaking. The stabilizer had balanced the machine and child inside her. She was something new now, something powerful and aware. They reached the tunnel's end. Where light poured in, soldiers waited outside, weapons raised. Iran moved to shield her, but Lena stepped forward. She raised her hand, and the air shimmered. The machines around the soldiers sparked and shut down, their weapons melting in their hands. The soldiers backed away in fear. One of them shouted, "She's not a subject anymore. She's in control." Iran stood beside her, proud and amazed. They didn't have to run now. Not if Lena could stand for herself. The soldiers left without a fight. Lena watched them go and turned to Iran. "Do we still need to run?" Iran smiled. "Not anymore." Weeks passed, and they found a new home on a quiet moon. No one knew them, and no one came looking. Iran fixed ships again, and Lena helped. She laughed more now, and sometimes danced when she thought no one was watching. She still had the marks, the glow, and the past inside her. But now she also had love, safety, and a future. Not as a project, not as a weapon, but as a daughter. And for Iran, who once lived alone in silence, she was not just a reason to fight. She was the reason he finally lived again. Together, they had faced fear, fire, and the shadows of the past. And together, they had won.